right, Mr. Chair, we're ready. We're live streaming, so that's our live streaming. Okay, we are on the World Wide Web. Let's get going. We'll start with the IDA. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to the July meeting of the IDA BDC. Start with the minutes, which look correct to me. I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
1 second.
Motion made, seconded. Any additions, deletions, or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes carried. Thank you. On new business, we had, is he open? Do you want a minute? Oh, no, see if you got anything else. Yeah. Okay.
Tori, you wanna come in?
Let's see. So we have, Tori here from, SV Cortland One LLC. There was a public hearing held, on June 26th. And, Tori spoke to the project. And, when Eric Mulvihill asked if there were any additional comments, there were none, and the public hearing was closed at 11:16 a.m. So. That being done, I would, oh, you have anything to add to this story, or are we all?
Nothing to add, just another thank you to IDA staff and yeah, just for really helping get through all the T's, crossed and I's dotted, but really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then in that case, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution finalizing the preliminary inducement resolution for a certain commercial project for SV Cortland One LLC. Do I have a second?
Whole second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, on the roll call, myself voting yes, Steve Compagni,
Yes.
Clint Brooks.
Yes.
Deb Hayden. Yes. Joanne Ames.
Yes.
That looked like she said yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Kathleen
Yes.
and Don Richards.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. And that will come to, I'll make a motion to approve the resolutions authorizing the execution of documents in connection with the straight lease transaction for a commercial project for SV Cortland One LLC. Do a second?
Whole second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, on the roll call, myself, yes. Steve Compagni,
Yes.
Clint Brooks,
Yes.
Deb Hayden,
Yes.
yes, Joanne Ames,
Yes.
yes. Kathleen Burke
Yes.
and Don Richards.
Yes.
Sorry for being a lawyer, but we do need an oral, it can't just be a.
Oh, can't just be that.
No. All
right. Unmute yourselves and say yes, you two.
I am unmuted.
Yeah.
The volume wasn't on.
Oh, it's the volume
We
again.
have a looping problem when we're live streaming and trying to zoom in the same device that we're not quite sure how to work with that, so that's part of our issue.
No worries.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay.
We got you.
We're all good. John's being an attorney over here. All right, then, Tori, you're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members and staff. Keep you updated as the project moves forward, which it is doing at a rapid pace. So thank you so much for your time. Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks.
I guess Karen, one, ready to go on financial.
I guess so, yeah, that's quick, leading up to financials, financials are short and sweet as well. You notice we did get the application fee, that was for this SV Cortland One. And if you're, to remind you, the solar companies, the application fee is $5,000, so not a big pay. Other than that, we just had the interest earned on our deposits, which are still doing well. With the high interest rates right now. And I thought I'd point something out too. I mean, again, just because there's very little activity here, just to show you a little more on finances. I know I talk about these things as they happen, but I thought, okay, we're midway through the year now. You look at your income statement, under revenue and expenses, you see how towards the bottom, you have all those company names. Those are the pilot payments that we received. I wanted to clarify, those are the pilots that we bill in-house. Those are the pro rata shares, so we bill those ourselves here in-house. Projects pay us and then we disperse it to the municipalities. There are more pilots. I don't want you to ever look at this and think that's the only pilot payments that are coming in, because you could kind of forget that little detail just because I mentioned it once in the month of February. So I figured I'd just point it out to you just to kind of educate you a little bit further on our pilots and what happens with them. So those payments, you see they're listed out. There's agreements for each one for how much they should be paying. And we collect the monies and then from the office, we disperse it to the taxing jurisdiction, so the numbers should always match. So down under expenses, you would also have the same information. So it's a wash financially for us, but it's, as a board member, it's good for you to watch to see if they're showing up and you have it both at the top and at the bottom. And also just for you to know, if you're ever just thinking, I see this every month. And then somebody on the street asks you about, pilot payments, there are more payments than what you're seeing here. It's just those are billed directly from the taxing jurisdictions. So the pilots that we don't pro rata share are handled directly from the school, the town, and the county. They have our agreement and they send out those payments, and then our office just monitors that to make sure that they're making those payments and it's the right amount. But those that are pro rata share, we bring in all the money ourselves and then we disperse it to the three. So that's your little learning lesson. I just,
Right.
little something, there's nothing in there, but I thought it's something, and with new members, I think you just keep needing to hear these things at different times, so you really have a good concept of what's going on. Other than that, minimal at the Apex Cleveland Street property for an expense. We're just mowing it right now, so we're all good with that. And nothing else to highlight for you.
Great. Okay, any questions for Karen? If not, I will make a motion to close the IDA. Have a second? Opposed, and we'll now open the BDC. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, additions or deletions to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Other than, I don't know, did you want to discuss like where we're at with the revolving loan program? Changes that we.
No,
or anything?
The changes that we talked about and discussed at the last meeting were good and approved, and we've started to enact them and go forward with them. So as we receive applications, we'll be following these new procedures.
Great, thanks, Brian.
Yep.
And it's a pretty quiet month, so I guess we'll go.
Right.
Right back to Karen
Okay,
again.
let's see what. No, so on your meeting, okay, so no, if you, everything is looking good. We have our routine expenses through the month and anticipated revenues. The SUNY Cortland lease is done as of the end of June 30, but, and the rents are, it's all budgeted and set up for that. We do have the CVB that's gonna acquire, that's taking over that space, so you're gonna see the same rent coming in for the month of July. CVB will be paying the same amount that the SUNY Cortland is paying, which is $700 for the space and $75 towards utilities. So that's coming attractions. But everything is routine in the general funds. If you go through your budget summary, you do see some. You're halfway through the year now and you see a few that are hitting that were under budget by, higher proportions than half the year. But in talking with Brendan and looking at what, we'll be spending through the years, some of those items are meant to be spent towards the end of the year. So you're gonna see that start to disperse out. So there's no concerns on the budget, everything is still as budgeted, if anything, some things. You come in a little higher for say like some kind of equipment purchases. So we may come in under budget by the end of the year too, but other items, like say we were talking about our website, there's quite a bit under the internet website that hasn't been spent yet, but that's because of some website changes that haven't occurred yet, so you'll see some expenses coming in.
Yeah, and with that website, it hasn't been updated, in, I don't know, 5, 6 years is probably.
Right.
So we do have a meeting with Freshie Sites this week to discuss what changes, updates that we could be doing. We'll see what they have to say.
And then what I do for you in your income statement is I always force the budget, so for your budget summary, you see quite a bit left over, but then you look at your income statement and you're like, but she says we're right on budget. And that's because to not skew the bottom line, I budget it as it's spent, so that's why it's that. But yeah, that's really for the BC general. That I would point out, I don't know if there's any questions about any line items that you're curious about. But everything seems fine to me. And for the revolving loan fund, also that's moving right along to payments that are in place. The only one that we had that was a bit slow was the Jordan Brown Performance Force, but she is now back paying. She's set up in a new location. Unfortunately, her business didn't make it. In terms of a COVID loan, we did get her through that period. So she was grateful for that, but she is making her full payment, so I don't have a concern on that yet. Last month, we had the 2 COVID loans that paid in full, so I kept them on for 1 more month, so you could see that. And then come September, we have 2 others, or bricks that will be paid up as well, so the COVID loans are finally running full circle. The other loans are paying right along, absolutely no problems. With that, I do have that one loan application that I was working on, and then they asked to pause it. They weren't sure if they were gonna come in. They're looking again at their project. It was a project in the village of Homer. That's also a DRI project, so we're looking at their best game plan for how, whether they can still come through us for part of it and how much through a traditional bank. So something in the future coming up, but nothing right now that I have to talk about or pull the committee together for.
Great. Any questions for Karen? With that, then we'll go to the director's report.
Sounds good, thank you, Mike. Quick update for a couple of things, the information we presented to all of you last month about our ARPA grants that we received enacted. We went in front of the county legislature, 2 weeks ago now, was it? 2 weeks ago now, presented the same information, did a really good presentation. They were very encouraged to see all the numbers and the specifics that we did, and very happy to see that it was a successful grant that we executed, and that $600,000 created about 1.1-ish million in total economic activity within the community. So they were very happy. And I don't know if you caught it, but the chairman made his annual report to the community. And a big chunk of that was this grant that we executed. So it was a great process, and hopefully we can find other ways to do similar programs going forward in the future. Great partnership with the county. So we'll see if we can arrange something similar going forward in the future. Karen and I recently had a meeting with the ownership of the Cortland Commerce Center. Really good informational, saying what projects they're working on, what they have going in the pipeline. They want to see where we can partner and where we can help fill their location that they have, expansions, all that type of thing. So it was really good. So hopefully there'll be more to come at the facility going forward in the future. I told everybody last month that I was going to be meeting at the with the REDC for their annual meeting and that information. So wanted to touch on a couple items. There's the small manufacturer modernization grant that they have available. Really good grant for smaller manufacturers. So if you have anybody that's yeah, what is it, up to 100 employees, wasn't it?
99.
99,
So
so
you
if
have to have 5 to.
you have to have a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 99, they can receive some pretty sizable grants for expansion, that sort of thing. So if you have anybody in mind, feel free to pass on the word or just connect us and we'll be more than willing to talk to whomever about this grant possibility for the manufacturers. There, of course, so I did apply for the EPA Brownfield Opportunity Grant. We received notification that we did not receive that grant, and I'm gonna have a follow-up meeting with them this week to discuss what was in our application that wasn't fit, and hopefully we can get that going through in the future. However, in the meantime, I was talking to the Department of State. They have a community-wide, county-wide brownfield opportunity area grant that hasn't been used to widespread going across statewide yet, and it's been out there for a couple of years, so I'm talking about potentially applying for that. So what that'll help with is similar with the EPA one, so you can help with phase 1, phase 2 environmentals, a community-wide site inventory would also fall into that line, so you can use that grant dollars to help fund this. So looking at different ways that we can create some good grant dollars for businesses to hopefully expand and grow in this community. And then the upcoming deadlines, so for a good chunk of the REDC's funding streams, the deadline is on the 31st of this month. So once again, I know we've talked to a couple, but if there's any other businesses that you've heard from that are talking about applying, feel free to send them our way so we can make sure that they're aware that there's a 31st deadline for a lot of the funding that's available. Moving on, for letters of support, we've done a couple in the past, but this month we had another one, and it is for that small manufacturer modification grant, modernization grant, and it's for precision informing, and Karen had a nice meeting with them. Provided a little bit of information, offered assistance, and talked with them to discuss the grant. I have a meeting with another company next week to discuss the grant as well. So hopefully we can get some activity and dollars flowing into the local businesses. We organized a really good meeting last week with the construction for Main Street and local downtown businesses. I invited all of you. Mike was fun enough to show up for it. It started off a little bit rocky, obviously. I mean, it's a mess out there right now. But most of the information we were sharing, we already knew a year ago. So it was all just reiterating the information. And I think the biggest thing that everybody's concerned about are the bump outs on the street, and how much that's encroaching into the space on the street. However, we just read that, this is mostly utility related. So those bump outs, they have to be there in order to let electrical conduits be accessible and that sort of thing. So it's just what the nature of the beast as it is right now. However, maybe down the road, if National Grid decides that they have thoughts to move the lines behind the buildings on Main Street. So if and when that does happen, it's possible that those bump outs could go away. But that's up to the community really at that point to decide if they want to keep them or if they want to take them away. There were some other good concerns in the room, some valid, I'd say majority of them pretty valid. But all in all, I think it was a really constructive meeting. Some of the businesses brought some thoughts to the engineers that might not have thought about otherwise. So all in all, I think it was pretty good. And this was in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. We had it over at the Chamber of Commerce too. So I also, we've met with a couple about the Small Business Development Center. And just to recap, we were approached by the Onondaga to help fund some of their activities. We're looking at other avenues, and Kathleen and I actually had a discussion with the Southern Tier Small Business Development Center, which we're also covered by. And we're looking to see, and we know that they can provide a similar level of service and amount of services of what we currently have, without having to pay and reimburse for that. So, good avenues, and we're also in discussions of expansion of different services. So, more to come on this, definitely. We're pretty excited about it at this point too. So lastly, for upcoming pilots or projects, other than what we've discussed here currently. We don't have anything on the horizon as we sit right now. But more possibly over the next couple months. So, thank you. Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I saw it in the paper, the recent announcement last week about the new funding, the 40 million that came through for essentially for the Micron project.
Mhm.
And it includes Ithaca, so it's talking about Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, and then Ithaca was lumped into that. Has there been any conversation with Cortland around those?
Not in
As
regards
well.
to the Ithaca stuff, but we have been, it's part of your, community engagement committee that they put together. So there's gonna be a focus on housing, childcare, on,
Mhm.
training, and healthcare. So we have been in talks with Center State about the application process, what we can go, who should be applying for those dollars.
Mhm.
And they have told us that there's gonna be more to come soon. They're wrapping up a housing study, that is gonna be as part of that funding.
Right.
And actually, I am going to a presentation, not next week, but I think it's the following week,
Mhm.
where they're finalizing some of that housing study and they're gonna be presenting it. So hopefully we'll have more information about how and when and where we can access those funds.
Are they also talking about the supply chain businesses?
Yes, yeah. And it's an obvious thing, and like I said, talking to Center State. We need to identify sites and what we have, and we've identified some of them. That we can open up to the supply chain businesses, but at that point, we just need to identify. Oh yeah, of course, Eric, thank you. And we've also been working with, we had a meeting recently as a recap of the county's strategic plan that they've been working on. I know some of you were able to make it to their meeting that they had 2 weeks ago now. All in all, it was pretty decent. They put together, they're looking to try to have a finalized, or as final as it could be at this point, plan to show everybody, and the county has to work through it to approve. But we've been a steadfast partner with this, and I've had numerous discussions on trying to make sure that economic development as a whole is being represented properly. And I think that is good, and they've left it open to some interesting partnerships that we might be able to involved in. So I do believe that it started off a little slow, but it's going in a really good direction. So I'm hopeful that it'll be a good plan.
Great. Any questions for Brendan? If not, yeah. Thank you, Brendan. At this point, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing a personnel issue. So I need a second.
Sorry.
Okay, and I would like Brendan to stay. Karen, Eric, we won't need you for this, so, and then John, I'd like you to stay.
Do you expect any action coming out? Cause I'll stop the meeting. I'll stream it now.
I don't expect it.
Again, technically, in theory, you should restream it afterwards to close the meeting.
The meeting.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
There's supposed to be there's software that allows you to close for executive session and
Yeah,
reopen.
you know, if we could just restart it.
Well, I'll hit pause, see what happens.
All right.
Sorry, this piece of it's a little new to me.
Yeah, if you're not sure,
Looks
don't
like
risk it
Yeah,
this time, but sometime there'll be an executive session where
right.
you
Yeah,
gotta.
if we had a true in-house encoder, you can do that. We're trying to. Nope,
We just-
they should be. Joanna, Deb, you can still hear these folks, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear us better now without that live streaming delay?
Oh, yeah.
So I've asked for this, because, we're gonna lose Karen, damn it. She wasn't gonna stay forever, we knew that, and so, personnel committee, working with Brendan, we're gonna have to come up with. I've asked Karen to work on a job description, but I'm also asking Brendan to be very much involved with that for a couple of reasons. First of all, Karen's a workhorse and she'll just take on anything that gets thrown at her. And I think she's doing a lot more than what she really needs to do. And so I think we need to consider that when we see the job description. And I know Eric is spending a lot of time on the Main Street project, which hopefully isn't gonna last forever. They told us at that meeting that, a year from this coming Labor Day, it'll be completely done, everything will be wonderful. At which point, he won't be out there on the street all the time, and we need to refocus his direction. And maybe take some of this off from Karen's plate when we consider, replacing her with a finance person, but not necessarily somebody that does everything that she does. I'm just throwing this out there because I think it's something we need to discuss and think about. So,
So I know we're talking about Karen, but can you in 10 seconds tell me what are his responsibilities with regards to the construction?
He's been assisting with communication, so he's been going to the construction meetings, getting information about what street's gonna be closed down, what street's gonna be opened. And then relaying all that information to the Cortland, Crop City Rising website, as well as going to the businesses on the downtown to relay that, to say when this place is gonna be closed, when it's gonna be open. So he's been really one of the main conduits of communication between the project and the business owners downtown.
the mayor told me he's been a huge help to him communicating with the businesses on Main Street.
But that is gonna dry up, like Mike said, that sooner rather than later, those necessities to report back and forth is going to be drying up. And before even talking, I've been kind of doing the same process and the same thinking, in that, a true finance person isn't what Karen's doing. And we should be able to, one, take a lot off of that plate for that role, and make it more of a true finance position. And then expand a little bit what the role Eric fills is doing. So more of those meetings with the businesses that Karen's been taking, more of trying to really do economic development. And a lot of that's been not able to be done with Eric currently because of his responsibilities to do the construction updates and that sort of thing. So I told Mike before I got things as well, that I've almost created, we're going back and forth right now with like 3 job descriptions. One is a redefining of Eric's role, redefining of what responsibilities, what he shouldn't be doing, what he should be doing. A true finance director position role, and then also an admin role. Because I figure if we're taking the construction stuff off of the plate as well, why not look at the role that he plays as the admin, and try to make it, like I said, more specific to community and economic development. So he's not necessarily doing all the board work, he's not necessarily answering all the phones, but he's more responsible for true economic and business development. Now, there is a possibility that finance director position be combined with an admin position. And talking to Karen, I think she's under the understanding that that's possible, because she does not think that her current finance role warrants 40 hours a week. So there could be a carve out of that to do some of that admin responsibility. But that's kind of where I've gone so far, and I wanted to also discuss with everybody their thoughts on this procedure, and if there's any other thoughts or direction that the group might have.
So you would basically know what each person should be doing more than we would, because we're not involved. in it.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're-
I should.
You're gonna put that in front of us,
Yes,
because this is what you
Yeah.
think that the direction that you should go.
yes, because the board's duty is to hire my role, my position. My role within the organization is to hire the employees and to manage the employees of the.
That's what I thought, I just wanted to be clear, okay.
How much of Eric's time is spent on this?
There's a good chunk, going to meeting, I would say 25-30%.
all of that,
What's that?
all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
Yeah,
just,
people-
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jamie.
We didn't, I'm just thinking back, it hasn't been that long since we abolished the administrative position and replaced it with Eric's position, and there was kind of a lot of thought and strategy around that. So Brendan, have you spent any time kind of digging back into the whys and, why we chose this path? Because it hasn't been that long, so I guess I'm a little bit taken aback, right? That we're talking about shifting things again and maybe potentially adding a fourth head or what, or not, or whatever. I just would like to have a little more clarity, I guess, around that piece, because I've thought at the time it was pretty deliberate that we went in the direction we went.
So my thought, well, one, I wasn't aware there was a lot of deliberation and we're gonna changes, so I'll go back and look at specific documents and things that outline the reasons why that should be roped in. But my primary thought around, one, it more being the role of the finance person or the person here, because that person is gonna be in the office, number one, more so than the true economic and community development person. That person should be more out in the field, that person should be with the businesses every day. And so that person's not gonna be in the office enough to do those administrative duties that would be required. The other part, and like I mentioned before, in talking to Karen, and the true aspect of a finance person, that he'd be doing the finances for these two organizations. She does not believe that it is a full 40-hour necessarily workload, but all the extras she's taken on over the years makes it more than 40 hours role. So if you make the person technically replacing her a true finance director, a true finance person, there will be more time in their workday to handle some of those administrative duties that would be in the office.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, Joanne, my discussions with Gary over the years when we were trying to decide how to deal with Sandy when she was our admin person. He and Karen just felt like too many times it was solitaire on the computer. And she didn't have enough to do, and they kind of thought that the two of them could handle it. And then that quickly became not the case, trying to answer the phone and be there all the time when, Gary, like Brendan's being called to Syracuse for REDC stuff and things like that. And so Karen began taking on more of the economic development work. And they pretty soon found themselves where they just couldn't handle it. So then we talked about this economic development specialist position, which we hired Eric for. And I know that Gary had thoughts that he should be, one of his focuses should be reaching out to the small towns that we don't really involve as much as we should. Cincinnati, McGraw, Marathon, Preble, whatever. And I don't think that's happened, because at the same time, the DRI project came around. And we were, trying to address issues there and questions from, all the shopkeepers and like that, and the mayor and everybody else who was involved. So we kind of shifted Eric into that position. I personally think that this is a 3-man office, and I think we can do it with 3 people. And I think if we take some of the load off from some of the economic development stuff off from Karen's plate and make it, like Brendan said, more of a true finance person, they're gonna be here every day and can answer the phone. And maybe, throw some of that stuff over onto Eric and have him do what the original intention was. But at the same time, I was never able to push Gary to write a job description for that, which needs to be done.
For
Eric's? You don't have a job description?
No, there was one.
There was one, but it was not clear and not enforced.
And I've taken that one, and I've made quite a few changes to it. And it's not ready for, prime time as we sit right now. but it's pretty close, and so. When that is when I think it's ready, which it should be this week, no problem, no questions asked, I can share it with all of you. So you can take a look to see if it makes sense, if it's clear, or if there's potential changes that people would suggest.
And what about the replacement, for Karen, the job description for that?
I have one,
Would that
ready- yeah, I have one ready for that as
be- So
well.
we can see them side by side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think, Eric, Brendan, that you would be able to find someone to do both finance director as well as administrative types of?
I hope so. Hiring is a interesting beast these days, and. I'll be hopeful. And I do think if we offer the right package, if we offer the right everything, then we should be able to find some good candidates. And we'll try our best. But I've seen other organizations that have, in this field, that have had some significant challenges finding the right person. That's my biggest concern, is finding the right person.
Yeah. Having recently hired finance or searched for finance, it's a difficult
Oh,
position
yeah.
right now to
It
fill.
is.
It really is,
Yeah.
at least in higher ed, so maybe it's different in your business.
I bet it's.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's gonna be challenging.
You know, to find that skill set, the reliability, everything.
Yeah, and I feel like we can have the best plans and have the best job description we think and get crap candidates.
Right.
That's my biggest concern, is making sure we find the right person.
So-
We throw mine
If
in.
we're gonna start, I know there's a hierarchy of who's got authority over what, we're over Brandon, he's over others. We're gonna start shaking up the whole tree here and moving responsibilities around. There's gotta be some oversight,
Mhm.
Right.
so that it actually happens.
And that's me. Like, that's why you enact me and put me in this position, is to make sure I'm the oversight of making sure it's all happening in the correct way, in the correct fashion. And that's all I can tell you. I mean, I don't think you guys want to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the office. So in order, yeah.
So I want all the employees to understand crystal clear what their new responsibilities are gonna be, because that's what we're talking about here, is shaking up the pot.
In a lot of the duties there will be some similar duties. I mean, first off, Karen's gone, so we're gonna have a whole new person there, so that is, their duties are gonna be clear cut and straight forward. I could see there being some like hiccups at first, trying to change job descriptions and roles. However, it is what it is, and it has to be followed to the T.
Yeah, let's not beat around the bush, he might be a problem.
I understand that, and I told Mike about this previously, that with the expansion of roles and the changing of roles and being very clear and defined, it's kind of a sink or swim type of situation where here are the parameters, this is what's expected, and if we're not meeting the expectations, then there's going to be follow.
And they work for you.
Yeah,
You work for the
exactly.
board, they work for you.
Exactly.
And he may not accept that, and he may be looking for two people.
Yes.
That happens.
I really don't want to be in that situation, and I hope it works.
Well, and I think that's something you gotta use back in.
Yes, it's that.
Nothing's a given.
No, it's been back there since day one. Yeah.
And Brendan,
Do
have
I
you
have
thought about timelines, backup plans, so Karen's responsibilities, are significant. B, she's been kind of that second face, other than the director, to the community, and so there's kind of a sense of loss there, but I'm concerned about kind of regulatory compliance and making sure that all of we stay clean, and we've had such a good record. And what do we do when, as you might anticipate, the search takes longer than the time that she's given us? And how do we proceed past that? What are your backup plans? What do they look like? Who's ultimately going to be responsible for that piece?
Number one, I've already talked to Karen about like that type of situation. And I would ask the board to possibly entertain the idea of putting her under a retainer or some sort of extension, so that when there's situations that we need the Karen to be available, we can pay her and make sure that she's helping us out in those situations. And she's been agreeable to that. She's open to that. And also with that being said, she would help the new person and help them through all the ins and outs and everything. We're also in talks with Insero, who do our audits and everything, who are going to, one, come to us as soon as we have a new person to go over everything. But they also can do some services of preparing us for all the submission to, for the audit. So they can help us on that side as well as performing the audit on the other side. So, depending on where we sit with everything, if we need Insero to provide those services, we're pretty sure that they will help us with the compliance piece to make sure it's up to speed. And to that point too, I'm not above looking into other, if we're not finding the right candidate, and if it's not happening, as far as accounting, we could outsource some of that to other, other businesses within the county. And what we would do is if we're not finding it and we need a bookkeeper, we need an accountant right away, we can RFP for it and get some offers to see who would be the best suited to offer those services.
I would imagine Debbie might have some commentary around that. I just wanted to quickly share my experience when we lost the CFO of the College Foundation. They said all the same things working with Insero. A couple things. Insero did not have the capacity in the timelines that we needed. So if you haven't really truly thought that through and talked about what you might need and when, I would do that. And two, we couldn't obtain any additional support from the community because all of our accounting firms are so busy and are short-staffed. But I'll defer to Debbie on that piece. I just want to make sure we're fully kind of aware of the landscape, and really start thinking creatively and proactively.
I'll agree with Joanna, definitely. I mean, I've not had much experience with Insero having, capacity, but I know as our firm, we're kind of at capacity, would love to find somebody, as are the rest of the local accounting firms. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge to be able to find somebody locally that's going to be able to help. And even if you expanded the search into the Syracuse and the Ithaca area, I think you still might run into the same challenges. Our profession's running into a lack of interest and a lack of staffing that we've not seen before. So I don't know enough about with the search at the College Foundation, but I imagine we are going to have challenges. And again, I do think we need to think about what we're going to do in the meantime.
Some good points. Yeah, we've already engaged with Insero and we have a meeting coming up with them soon. So we've started that process to see if they're capable. So when we hear from them and get their thoughts on it, we proactively will also be engaging with these other firms to see if the possibility is there.
So the process, you had mentioned sending the job descriptions back to the full board, but it really should go back to the personnel committee, right? First to be kind of vetted and the timeline vetted and all that good stuff. So you have a smaller group you can turn to for support a bit more frequently. I would imagine.
Yes. Yep, that's the idea. And then when we go back and forth with personnel to get those finalized, I'll send them out to the broader group just to, keep on top of it.
And then the process, I know this is jumping ahead and you've got to clean all that up, but what do you envision the process looking like for the kind of the search itself?
It's going to be, we're going to put some paid money behind it to get it out there as much as possible, and to publish it as widely as possible. And I would want to get someone on hopefully by mid-August, then that time frame. I mean, that might be aggressive, it probably is. But sooner rather than later. And because I would love to have some layover time between Karen and this person. So sooner.
Well, at the same time, Karen's willing to work per diem or whatever. So at whatever point we bring somebody in, we have to pay her,
Yes.
to get this person up to speed to what she knows and what she does, at least get a good, a good start.
Yeah.
Then so be it. It's in our interest to do that.
It's money well spent to make sure that they're up to speed on everything.
I don't disagree with that. I do have to agree with you, Brendan, though. I think you're being super optimistic.
I'm trying.
I will buy you a steak dinner if you can pull that off by the middle of August.
Ever since Karen told me, this has been keeping me up at night, so I've been going over multiple scenarios in my head. And yeah, Joanne, I'm right there with you, so I'm trying to push it forward as quickly as possible. The day she told me, I started pulling up the job descriptions and searching and starting to try to put something together, so hopefully we'll be hopeful.
All right, any other discussion or comments?
So
Now I'll make a motion.
We'll have,
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure, sorry, this is me, Personnel Committee hasn't met yet, right? To talk about this, so you're gonna get that in the books and.
Who's on the personnel committee?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, I'll figure it out. Yeah. But before the end of the month, for sure, I would say next week or two, we'll get the personnel committee together. At least have the job descriptions in their hands to review, to start commenting and thinking back and forth.
All right. I'll make a motion to leave the executive session. I need a second. And we're second, and we are out of executive session. Thank you. And
Yeah, we gotta wait a minute here.
Big Jim.
no action was taken in the executive session. I'll make a motion to adjourn the BDC. Is there a second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.